According to Pew Research, 100% of people, everybody, a number rarely used in math statistics, 100% of people have been exposed to pornography in one form or another. And of that 100%, 84% have admitted to seeking it out. My name is Garrett Hoyle, and I decided to do this informative speech project on the dangers of pornography to not only broaden my own understanding as a future father and as a future husband, but to bring to light to the listeners the dangers and the destructive nature of this industry. The reason why it's so concerning is because of its definite link between crimes such as sexual abuse, rape, incest. Serial killers such as Ted Bundy have admitted that pornography usage and pornography addiction at an early age was one of the causes of his destructive habits that formed into crimes such as homicide and murder. And while some may say that pornography is an expression of free speech and is harmless, exposure to pornography, and especially to teenagers, is harmful in ways that transcend statistics. It is physically, emotionally, and mentally destructive to both the viewer and the actors. And in this speech, I will be discussing the side effects and consequences of pornography between the two parties, both viewer and actor. The first I wanted to talk about is physical. And the cold hard truth is that pornography, like any drug, is an addiction. Usage dumps chemicals such as oxytocin and dopamine into our bloodstream and brain. Drugs that when acquired through honest means are fantastic and necessary for our human existence and survival. The dangerous thing about these drugs is our brain begins to form a connection that we can receive such a high and receive such pleasure for not that much work. And in the case of pornography, we become quickly dependent on that for the main source of sexual pleasure. So much so that cases far along in pornography addiction, people have reported ED or erectile dysfunction, and have reported not being able to perform with their life partners, someone who they agreed to love for time and all eternity. And the really discouraging and saddening thing about this is pornography strips away your right to perform the true paramount of human existence, and that is to love. From a scientific background, the dangers of addiction forms that your high becomes your baseline, and that whenever you are off your high, it becomes less than your baseline, and it kind of forms a mental barrier. You become upset, you become irritable, and you become not who you truly are when you're not on that imaginative baseline. And the paradigm in which you see the world changes also. You see the world through the fantasy that you were trying to live. More physical side effects in men have reported lower testosterone, which again transcends to issues that most men won't like to admit, such as hair loss, such as erectile dysfunction. And porn does not only have an effect on the body, but like we talked about, it also has an effect on the mind. As you are in control with your own body, you waive your right to your own agency, to your own choice by becoming dependent on pornography. Now, being dependent on things isn't necessarily a bad thing if those things are good for you, such as water, stuff that we're all dependent on, such as food, stuff that we are all dependent on. But when you become dependent on a drug, again, we talked about that baseline. It leads to increased anxiety and increased depression. It is corrosive to your mental health so much that while some may view it as an escape, they're really going down a rabbit hole that they should have avoided in the first place. And the only way to dig your way out of this, what the viewer thought was an escape, is abstinence, and is to break that hold that this drug has upon your brain. And now I've previously touched on the effects of the viewer, and now I want to talk about the actors. What are the effects on the millions of daughters and sisters, and to even some mothers? One study I found was from the psychology department for mental health and growth, which is a Christian organization. So I just wanted to throw that bias in there. But this is a quote from them. They say, "Our study found that female adult film performers were more likely than other young women in California to be depressed and have significantly worse mental health." So again, some of the same side effects of the viewer. These performers reported poor mental health on more than 7 days in the past 30 days, and a third met the criteria for depression. Although we cannot determine causation, the association between adult performer status and poor mental health was consistent and highly significant. The bivariate differences in mental health status and depression between adult film performers and other young women were no longer significant after the analysis controlled for domestic violence and childhood sexual assault. This finding may partly explain why performers who had significantly higher prevalence of physical and sexual trauma had worse mental health and a higher rate of depression. And so that kind of takes away the argument that pornography is a victimless crime, because it is not. Beyond the mental damage, pornography actors and actresses are 25 times more likely than the average American citizen to develop STDs. And many previous stars have come out to discuss the sexual abuse and poor treatment while they were in this truly disgusting industry. Now we've discussed some of the side effects on the viewer and of the actor, but what about the bystander? In many common situations, we find that people in monogamous relationships seek out pornography as an expression to be able to still, stay somewhat committed to their spouse. And so now I wanted to talk about what side effects, including things like trust, that it can have on that bystander. Now, Ann Blocker gave an amazing TED Talk on the psychology of trust. And when someone breaks the trust of a marriage partner through lies and cover-ups, which are very much associated with pornography, again, think of Ted Bundy, you lose that trust, thus leading to a weaker marriage. And now this is a quote from her. She said, "Trust is indispensable. Trust is an investment. It takes an initial leap of faith to establish relationships. To form a relationship, one must make a choice to be vulnerable and be open. And when that trust is broken, the person is less likely to be open and vulnerable. It is a human defense mechanism to defend that which is most sacred. Our brains senses to be inherently rewarded for us being trustworthy. We enjoy behaving and doing right by others. When we go against this natural instinct, we are going against the grain of our human nature." And the scary thing about monogamous relationships is that they've been on the decline. And there's a wonderful book called He Restoreth My Soul, which again is written by a Christian author, so it has that bias of that kind of pillar or value of chastity. But he compares our society to that of the Roman Empire. And that when the Roman Empire truly started to fall, it started with the citizens and their moral values. It started with, what Ann Blocker says here, that human instinct to be trustworthy, to be honorable, to be upright, and to be a true gentleman or gentle lady. We're going against the grain of our human nature. And when we lose that common societal, brick like the family, and when that starts to break, then it cannot be surprising when the rest of it starts to crumble. And in conclusion, porn has no benefactors except for the producers. Very similar to companies who make cigarettes or alcohol. The effects on you, the effects on, pornography does have an effect on you, whether you are a viewer, whether you are a bystander. Pornography has become so prevalent in our society that it has affected you in one way or another. That's why I believe this speech is so prevalent, is because I hope that these warnings are taken as just that. In high school previously, I had struggled with a pornography addiction, and being able to understand what damage I was not only doing to myself, but what damage I was doing to the relationships around me, both family, both romantic and friendship-wise. I want to help heal the world for other people and to build it up for the safety of my own future daughters and for hopefully the emotional and the mental and the physical health of my future sons, even though pornography does affect both male and female. And again, to kind of review the main points, pornography is a drug. It is addictive. It is physically, emotionally, and mentally corrosive, and it is destroying the family, the basic unit of our society. And if I had a call to action, it would be to think before you click. Porn is not real love. There's a wonderful company called Fight the New Drug that has kind of been pioneers on this new forefront and fighting this poison to our society. And it would be to go check out their website. If you are kind of stuck in that cycle, know that there is hope. And I would, invite you to be open and to be honest with those around you. Like Ann Blocker talked about in her TED Talk, trust is indispensable. And the only way to rebuild trust from a broken point is to be vulnerable yourself. So thank you all for listening to me. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.